Hello, and welcome to Top of Mind with Anne and Rachel. My name is Rachel Prophet. I am a white woman with long red hair that's down today. I am wearing a black shirt with cream colored spots all over it. I am not in my office today because I am downtown Denver at a local user group event, and so I've got a blur background that puts me in this beautiful living room with a fake fireplace and grand piano. Anne, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Anne Krupke. My pronouns are she, her. I am a white woman with brown hair. It's in a bun, wearing the same green sweatshirt I think I wear basically every time with my Microsoft Dynamics virtual background.
Love it. And we have a special guest this week again. Philip, thank you for joining us. Do you want to go ahead and
Sure.
introduce yourself?
Yeah, no, happy to be here. My name's Philip Seaton. I'm a white male with short brown hair and a reddish beard. Currently today wearing a blue flower shirt with a bunch of Mandalorian and Grogu's on it. Yeah, I'm also a senior fast track solutions architect working with Ann and Rachel.
And you also
Thanks for
wear
joining us
glasses.
today.
Oh, sorry, I am. These are my
That's
readers. I
okay.
I only put them on camera or if I have to work off my laptop.
Is it like
I
a look smarter thing because you're wearing glasses, or
That's exactly it. Don't
I've actually
spoil my
got new
secret.
glasses. I've been kind of taking them on and off. They're rose-colored FL41 glasses that are new for me um, in the last week or so. I'm still getting used to them. So, like, I take them on and off, just kind of depending on how I'm feeling. But I just put them on in case people were wondering. But that's my deal. I think they're kind of groovy though, and I do
Yeah,
think
I,
they're helping. It's
I spent the
yeah.
most of my
That's
life with glasses and trying to get rid of them. So LASIK is my
hey,
best friend.
Yeah, I also had LASIK, but I'm getting a bit older, and these are also for the computer, so they got the blue tinting deal to block that
Gotcha.
light out.
So Phil, we gotta ask, what is top of mind for you today?
Um, well, I mean, I'm grateful that you invited me to be here. I know I've worked with you both over the last year, and I've learned a ton from both of you working with you. Rachel, I'm respectful of the blog posting you do regarding your challenges, and that actually inspired me to seek help. And I've started taking advantage of some of the Microsoft Health services that I'd been putting off, and not necessarily brave enough to get out there and blag about my journey, but at least I'm going through it and getting some help now. And Anne, I really enjoyed working with you on the Tech Talks, and just it's been a blast. I really liked the last one we did together. And again, just really grateful to be here with both of you today.
Thanks, Phil.
yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
What are you working on these days? We've sort of talked about what Fast Track is, so some of our listeners should be aware. But what kind of stuff have you been doing recently?
So a lot of the normal stuff, solution blueprint reviews, various workshops, prepping for some go lives coming up, and lately I've been doing some demos for the upcoming features like the invoice automation, invoice capture service that's should be getting close to GA, I think.
That is an exciting new feature. I think there's been a lot of buzz around the invoice capture. So like maybe can you maybe describe for viewers like what is it? What's it all about? Like why
Yeah,
would
so
somebody use it?
so this is Microsoft, filling a gap that's been in the system, ever since the older days where we've had a lot of ISVs that do automated invoice processing via OCR. And a lot of those require manual mapping. You get your document, you have your image file, you have to go in and you have to, draw your little boxes, say, this is where my invoice number is, this is where my customer information is, this is a line, this is an item. And so, that by itself is a bit tedious, and Microsoft did not have any offerings. We were all very much dependent on ISVs. But I think the good thing about this one, and this even predates the OpenAI stuff, is this one was built off of AI learning models. So it'll take the document, parse it on its own. The first time you put it through, it'll pick out a lot of the information, the basic stuff decipher lines. It can decipher item numbers, quantities, all kinds of things without any training or input. It's all built off an established model. So I thought that was really fancy.
Now, what about like small businesses that maybe like have handwritten invoices? Can it handle that kind of stuff, or does it expect like printed, like more formal type
It can
invoices?
do. The confidence ratings on handwritten and blurry images are usually a little bit lower. There are configuration settings where you can set it up for certain amount of confidence. If the app is 80% sure, it's fine, just let it go through because it's more than likely right. But if it's like 15% confident that it actually put in the right contents, then there's a dashboard you go and manually review, make corrections before you transmit it into Dynamics. So this sits outside of F&O out in the Power Platform.
Oh, that's cool. So what about like, I remember way back in the day, one of my first jobs, like working with like before like the age of OCR, like really like it was like bleeding edge at the time. It was probably 20 years ago, putting like an OCR solution in. And one of the big challenges was like dealing with like these multi-page invoices. Like, where have we kind of come in terms of AI and OCR capabilities, and like what does our solution do, and how do we handle that?
So multi-page and multi-invoice in a single document are still being worked on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you have the lines going into the second page, a lot of times it can pick that up, but it's not quite there. But they are making a lot more improvements. Like it initially, it required a lot of manual configuration as far as vendor mapping, item mapping, procurement category mapping, and the feedback we got from the first clients I demoed for was, well, that's a pain in the butt. Why would I have to go key in all my vendors again? We're adding tens, for the larger companies, tens of hundreds of vendors, weekly, monthly, whatever. Like that's a lot of maintenance on top of that. So this last version is utilizing virtual entities a lot more. So it's pulling that information out of your system so you don't have to duplicate the entry as far as setting up vendors and items and all of that other stuff. And they are working on, like you said, getting multi-document in a single file and other things to help businesses of all sizes.
Yeah.
So
utilize
personal
this.
opinion, like I know that because this has been a gap so long, there are ISVs out there. Where are you familiar kind of with the ISVs in the space, and where would you say what we're building, how it ranks up against those ISVs?
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar. I think Xflow is one of the big ones, and Medius is another I've heard a lot. I think the differentiator there is again the AI generation of the document reading, because all of those, as far as I've dealt with, require the training for the various documents. So every time you get a new invoice from a new vendor, you have to train that document for it to be able to be processed. Where this one, you just, it's partially included. I think the licensing is still being worked out. It sounds like there's going to be sort of a base amount of invoices you can process, and then once you get over a threshold, it's going to be like the order lines skew. There's going to be something else for once you exceed capacity.
Okay.
But it's all going to be Dynamics platform, all integrated, all out of the box connectors. Everything's available on AppSource. Everything hooks up natively, and then you have that the handy AI captures your document and then posts it directly into your invoices using existing data entities.
Do we know if the ISV solutions have features still that we haven't adopted yet? Do they handle maybe more complex scenarios or?
Yeah, the ones I've heard about are categorization. You can set up rule sets, or workflow processing are done sometimes externally. And we do have the workflow, but that all takes place standard Dynamics. Once you get your invoice in and submit it through the workflow that way, that's how that would run. But I've gotten feedback from some that they prefer the Medius workflow and more conditional categorizing of expenses. Right now, it just takes the item, looks it up, and does a basic coding off of what the item's set up on, where they can set up in the ISVs. Yeah, if it's this item for this vendor for, you know, whatever XYZ thing, and have a more complicated lookup system than what we're doing right now.
So how does it work for like non-PO related invoices? Can it handle non-PO related invoices? Like if your telephone bill, for example?
Yeah, it would come in as an expense category, so you would map that to your procurement categories, and then it can come in
Okay.
map to one of those.
That's pretty big. I mean, I feel like we've always had room for improvement, especially in the non-direct purchasing area within Dynamics. So it's nice to see that we're adding capabilities there as well as direct materials purchasing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's pretty cool. I don't like no pressure if you can't, but you know, I don't know if you've got an environment available. Be maybe cool to see like how the mapping works for
Yeah,
the indirect procurement. Like that'd be kind of interesting.
And if you
unfortunately,
need us to
my
ham while you pull it up, we can do that.
well, I unfortunately started updating my app maybe 20 minutes ago, and it's still updating.
Oh, we got a
Like I
question that came in. Let's let me put this up on screen. So the question is, licensing aside, what kind of invoice volume can it handle?
I mean, it goes fairly quickly. I've, you know, in my testing, not done more than onesie twosies, but it does quite a bit. I mean, it's made for enterprise level, you know, thousands of invoices daily. Each invoice takes roughly, I guess, depending on your computer, just a few seconds to go in, do the AI capture, and then if everything maps okay and everything is ideal, then it actually will just post straight into Dynamics without any sort of you know, any need to get in, modify or correct it. It'll just go through without any intervention. So as far as Mark, I see your question. To get the invoice capture, it is available in AppSource. I can get that link for you there, and then you would. There's also an instruction guide on the private preview Yammer channel. That's another link we should probably post, where it walks you through setting up the virtual entities, making sure you have your Power Platform environment, you know, installed and connected. And then yeah, you just install the app from AppSource into your Power Platform environment, and there's some configuration, some connections and things you need to get hooked up for it to start working.
Yeah, I
So
think that
like you
that's a
have to
really
have like
good.
the Dataverse like linked up to your F&O first. And then what you're installing is actually on the Dataverse. It's not on F&O.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, as far as the F&O part, it's just going to use data entities that are already there. Like if you have custom fields, you might have to do some tweaking. I think they're still building that feature in. But yeah, otherwise it's just an entirely self-contained Power Platform app that they're distributing.
I want to go back to something, Phil, that you just said, which is you said there's a Yammer group, a private Yammer group for the preview, which you can join. And I don't, Rachel, think we've talked about this on our top of mind ever.
Yeah, I don't think we have either.
So it's the Yammer group that Phil's referring to is called the Finance and Operations Inside, or what's it actually called? Dynamics 365 and Power Platform Preview Programs, also known as the Insider
That's a
Program.
mouthful.
I know it's really long. It's the Insider Program. So you can sign up if you aren't a member, you can sign up at experience.dynamics.com/insider. Yammer is a work social media tool, which is another Microsoft tool because we're full of them. And there's an acceptance process to get admitted to the Yammer group. And once you're in, there are groups for all the different areas of what we're doing in Dynamics. So there's, as Phil said, an invoice capture group. There's a planning group, manufacturing, financial, like different pieces. So
HR, commerce,
yeah,
the list goes on and on.
Find the topic groups that make sense to you and join them. The product team is very active in there, as well as partners and users of the product, just asking people for feedback or questions. And if you want to hear about stuff that's coming up, sometimes the product team will post about upcoming features or ask for feedback on features. So I recommend everybody joins the Insider group.
Yeah, like you said, the interacting with the product group is invaluable. I mean, you know, we've got the developers and the product owners for this invoice capture giving direct troubleshooting advice on installation and things. And that, I mean, how often are you going to get that instead of having to call into the regular support or put your LCS support ticket in and, you know, wait forever and, you know, go through that hassle. So it's yeah.
Yeah, plus Phil's just
definitely a
hanging out
better
in the
stream.
comments waiting for something he can help with. Right?
Maybe another question that people might have, Phil, is like, can you maybe describe like what are the different ways that we can receive invoices? So, you know, obviously there's like if I got it through snail mail and it's paper and I scan
Yep.
it in, but what if somebody emails it to me? Like what are some of the other ways that we can receive them and kind of get them into the queue, so to speak?
Yeah, there's a few different channel connectors you can set up. Email being a pretty common one. So you can specify, you know, this email inbox is what's going to be used for it. We're going to be looking for emails from, you know, these addresses with this comment, you know, and this file type attached. And so that would be one way of getting it in. There's also a manual upload. You ran it, scanned it, saved it to your desktop. You go to the invoice capture and upload the file directly, and then it'll start processing it. You know, there's SharePoint directories you can have it monitor. And I'm not entirely sure of everything, but those are the three I've worked with.
You know, like fax machines are still a thing.
Possibly, because I know there are fax to email services.
Yeah.
And if you did something like that, you could probably have it come in through an email channel.
If there's a will, there's a way, Rachel.
You know, that was
it's his first time on here, and you're harassing him. Come on.
No, at my last job, I had to do fax software.
Seriously, it's all good.
You know, I've been in IT for almost 20 years, and so I have dealt with fax to email software and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
What about telegraph? Can it take telegraphs?
That probably could. I bet you. I would not be surprised if there's somebody out there that has, you know, those little Raspberry Pis that can translate Morse code into binary or whatever.
You know, I am a big fan of pie, but I don't know that Raspberry Pi is really my favorite flavor. I'm maybe more of a pecan pie kind of girl.
Oh, they say I'm a well, so on a side note,
a little lighthearted here.
You know, my birthday was a few weeks ago, and my dad made my favorite pie, which is a bourbon brown butter peach pecan pie, and it's just so good.
Really good.
Okay, so Phil, you can't drop bombs like that and then not share recipes. We got another question. Yeah,
I'll have to find that. I guess you could ask ChatGPT. Maybe it'll come up with something. Yeah, so the AI is trainable. It comes with the regular model, and then there's some settings so you can turn on or off. If you like it the way it is and you want it to keep doing the same thing, you can leave it as it is, or if you want it to keep training, you can certainly do that, and it'll keep picking up from your invoices. Not necessarily, I don't believe it does all invoices.
Yeah, I think it would be a data privacy issue if we were using other customers' data to train the AI model for your invoices, maybe.
But I think, right, like there is like a user interface, if I recall correctly, in like the Dataverse side, like on the model driven app, where like if it got it wrong, you can go do the whole like train thing on your own invoice.
But if I use it and then another customer uses it, another user, like company uses it, my invoice data isn't going to be used to train that company's model, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's a bummer from not having a big data set, but it's a data privacy thing that we're not going to use your company's data to train some other company's model because we are respecting our customers' data privacy.
Yeah. But it is trainable for sure. Now, what about like the file storage of the images? Like, so like obviously like that can grow pretty fast and pretty big, and that can be a concern for some organizations. What happens with those files? Does it stay in the Dataverse? Does it go to F&O? Like, does it go to
it stays in the Dataverse side.
Options? How does that work?
Yeah, it stays in your Dataverse, and the files are relatively small, and it actually will link side by side. So when you view the related invoice in F&O, it'll bring up the scanned image in F&O via link. It actually isn't stored in the database, isn't stored in the AX blob storage, and the Dataverse storage obviously being a whole lot cheaper than F&O, the high performance storage that we put behind those things.
Okay. So it's going in the Dataverse storage, and that side-by-side viewer still works with those. That's great.
Yeah, you have side by side inside of the app where you're doing the corrections, as well as in Dynamics on the pending invoices form as well, so you can view it from both sides.
That's
Do you know,
fantastic.
Phil, if there's like if there's a video that like a demo of the product out there on YouTube or anything like that?
There is. They've done an initial release, and I think there's the demo video in the Yammer channel. I'll have to see if there is also one on YouTube. But there was a pretty significant change in this last version as far as the look of it and the way it works. So the original one, the demo would be okay to get the gist, but the functionality's been so enhanced that it would be hard to kind of translate
So
that.
stay tuned for an updated demo.
The demo that they did of it last week or 2 weeks ago in the business applications like release wave announcements, was that the new version? Because there was a demo of it, or has it changed since then too?
No, yeah, the one came out a week ago. So if that was, I wasn't aware there was a new video, but that would probably be it if it just came out.
It was part of like the release wave, like the Charles Lamanna like big hoorah that we did.
Oh, the Biz Apps launch.
Yes, the Biz Apps launch. Thank you. I'm like,
I was like, I know what you're talking about, but I can't.
What are you talking about? Like, yeah, that thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find.
We did a short demo
be able
of it
to
in
see
that.
the recordings there. Yeah.
But it's like it's buried in a much bigger video, but it did include.
I'll put that link to that on the screen. It looks like when we put stuff in the chat, Rachel, they're only showing up in YouTube and not in LinkedIn. So you can catch up on everything that was announced last week or the week. It was last week, I think it was April 4th at the MS Biz Apps launch event.eventcore.com. So I think the recordings are available, and there was a couple of deep dive sessions talking about the different rooms of the house and what they're working on for the next wave.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of exciting stuff coming.
Yeah.
But do you have any insight, Phil, like as to when it's going to be generally available, or no? Is that
soon?
Soon?
Yeah, it was targeted. It's been pushed. It was supposed to be Q4 last year, or fiscal or calendar Q4, but it got pushed, and I think it should be out hopefully this quarter. They're really close to it. So
I imagine if they added a bunch of new functionality, they probably want people to test that before they make it GA.
So we had another question come in. So they have many project users that need to see the posted invoice from D365. Will they be able to easily get to the image in the Dataverse?
Yeah. Like I mentioned, it'll give you side by side on the pending, and then there's a direct link in F&O back to the invoice image. So it's all.
So a user wouldn't necessarily have to leave the system Dynamics to be able to see invoice images.
That's right.
What about like when you get to like the payments and like settlement screens and stuff like that, can you still get back to the original image? Do we persist that link through different
I don't believe it goes past
the
regular invoicing. Yeah, that would be something we'd have to add as an idea or post on the Yammer channel. So make sure the product gets that feedback.
That's one I've heard from customers in the past, and I know it's something that even way back in the day when I was in AP that we struggled with, is because like that invoice copy, like you need it when you're making the settlement and you have to match it up with the payment, again, for audit purposes is just kind of like, how does that persist through, and like, how can you easily pull it up, from the payment? Yeah. I'd be curious to go do a search and see if there is an idea out there already. And
Maybe
great
not on the
question.
idea portal yet, because I mean,
Mm.
I don't know that they allow it if it's not been GA, but it will be soon.
So Jody asked, will it tie with the financial tags as they progress? So the financial tags are on the invoices. I don't know, like, do you know, Philip, are the financial tags on the Dataverse side so you can put them in?
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
This is the normal accounting categories. We're not I didn't think that they were on invoice journals yet. I thought that was on the roadmap, but was that
Yeah,
on
they were.
3.2
I
or
thought
3.3?
I don't know. I know Eric said the first thing was just general journals, and then they were going to do
Mhm.
payment journals, but I didn't know if invoices were there yet.
Yeah, I thought they
Yeah.
were on a later release. But yeah, I have not seen that integration with this app yet.
Yeah.
So do you think I don't know, Jody, feel free to type it in the comments if you've got the scenario, but would the idea be using the logic from the invoice capture to default certain financial tags on the invoice journal? Does that make sense what I just said, Rachel? Not having an accounting background?
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me. Like, I would assume that that's maybe what she's looking for. I'm curious. It might take her a second to type it in. And I think there's a lag as well between like what we say and yes. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So Phil, maybe just tuck that one away for the next time you talk to the PG, if we can use the invoice capture to default certain financial tags on an invoice journal. PO number, for example, to the invoice.
That's a great example.
Thanks, Jody, for that.
Yeah. So I don't know if it does tags, but it will recognize PO and pull related information off of that PO for the invoice, as far as recognizing the item, the quantity,
Yeah.
the values when it's populating that.
Gotcha.
Another reason it needs that virtual entities connection.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, and it might be, you know, even if it's like, and I remember Eric saying something when we had him on a few weeks back, about like defaulting logic being something that's, you know, on our longer term roadmap. Yeah. Yeah.
We hope
Yes.
so too.
Now, I'm pretty sure it is, but I think like we're prioritizing like the work to like surface them in all the different documents first. And then I think there's a bigger scope of work to kind of create some defaulting engines. And I think the defaulting work, if I recall correctly, is not just the financial tags, but I think it's also for the financial dimensions themselves as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think that's been an ask for a while from a lot of different people. I think it's just like having a proper way to like create rules for that defaulting logic. It can be complicated, and we used to have some things in older releases, but they weren't really robust enough and they didn't really perform very well. So it's just making sure we've got a good architecture in place, is I think really key there.
Yeah, I know when I was still doing development work, that was a common thing. You know, on the various forms, you'd have to put a parameter in to say, you know, default to this dimension, default to that dimension, and you'd have parameters all over the place, and eventually they'd get forgot or not updated. And
there were a couple integrations that I worked on that were super annoying because we had to default all the, you know, like sales order financial dimensions based on whatever's coming in, or I don't remember, but yeah.
It's like
super
you
fun.
almost wind up like hard coding them, like based on some very specific business rules, and it's not super ideal.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right.
Well, we're at the half-hour mark here, so I want to thank everyone for joining us today on Top of Mind with Ann and Rachel. Thank you, Phil, for joining us.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
And we'll hopefully see you all next time.
Thanks, Phil, so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye,
Have a good
everyone.
day.
Bye, everyone.